Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to our one-room schoolhouse. It's time to go back in time in our book, Past, Present, and Future. Today, you're going to read the story From Place to Place. It's on page 8. I'd love to read it with you. If you open up your book to page 8, follow along with your finger and try to read with me. Long ago, there were no cars. How did people get from place to place? Some people rode horses, but it was hard to ride in the cold. Also, horses had to stop a lot. They had to eat and rest. Some people rode on boats. These boats floated on rivers and lakes. A lot of people could get on big boats. Just 2 or 3 could get on little rowboats. It was a slow ride. And turn the page. In the past, some people rode in coaches. So that would be kind of like what I have in my little example here. Long dirt roads were made for the coaches. When it rained, the roads turned to mud. The ride was slow and bumpy. Today, we go places by car, plane, bus, boat, or train. There is always a way to get from place to place. Most are fast, but you have to know which is best for your trip. And then what you're going to do, you're going to go back through the story and reread it and circle words with long O. And then tell about how people traveled long ago. So I'd like to do one page of it with you. So on the first page, From Place to Place, long ago. The word ago you'll circle because ago has the open syllable long O. There were no cars, so you would circle the word no. That's another open syllable long O. How did people get from place to place? Some people rode horses. The word rode has our magic E making O say its name, so that's a long O. But it was hard to ride in the cold. When we have an O before LD, it's going to make that long O sound, cold. Also, the word also has open syllable O with a long O. Horses had to stop a lot. They had to eat and rest. So you're going to go through the next 3 pages, and you're hunting for those long O words. Have a grown-up help you. And then you're going to go ahead and draw to show how people traveled in the past and how they travel today. So you would draw some ways that people used to travel and now how they travel now. Tomorrow you're going to write about how people traveled in the past and today. It's a comparison writing. If you want to get a start on it today, that would be great. But at least read the story, find your long O's, and get your picture parts done. Now let's look at another famous person, how they lived in the past when they were young. This is young Thomas Edison. He was a great inventor. Thanks to him, we have things such as the light bulb. And thank you, Scholastic, that we get to read your book. This is written by Claire Neames, illustrated by John Himmelman. Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was a great inventor. He made new machines that helped people. He invented the first electric light, the first phonograph, which would be a record player, and many other things. Thomas was born in Milan, Ohio on February 11th, 1847. His parents came to Ohio from Canada. Thomas was their youngest son. His full name was Thomas Alva Edison, but his parents called him Al. Milan was a small town, but visitors came all the time. Some were farmers. Sometimes wagon trains would stop in Milan on their way out west. Al loved talking to the people passing through. He learned from them. And look, there they are, traveling in a covered wagon. When Al was 7 years old, his family moved to Michigan. Al started going to school there, but to him, school was boring. Hope you don't feel that way. Al always wanted to learn more, so he asked a lot of questions. So many questions sometimes made the teacher angry. Uh-oh. And you can see that looks something like the one-room schoolhouse we're sitting in here. Al left school after only 3 months. His mother gave him lessons at home. Al wanted to know about everything. Sometimes his mother didn't have the answers. He found many of the answers in books, but books didn't have all the answers. So Al began to experiment and try things for himself. When Al was not studying, he was working. For 3 summers, Al sold fruits and vegetables with a friend. One summer, he earned $600. That was a lot of money in those days. When he was only 12 years old, Al began to work as a train boy for the railway. He sold newspapers and candy on the train. Al even printed his own newspaper on the train. He also set up a laboratory there, a place to try scientific tests or experiments. But one day, while he was trying an experiment, he almost set the whole train on fire. His boss got very angry. After that, Al had to sell newspapers at railway stations, not on the trains. While he worked for the railway, Al learned how to use the telegraph. This machine allowed people to send messages to faraway places, and you can see they would tap out the message in dots and dashes, and someone could listen in on the other end and be able to figure out what letters those meant. And that would be very different from the way we communicate with texts and cell phones today. From the time he was a boy, Al had problems with his hearing, but he did not need to hear well to use the telegraph. The messages were printed in Morse code on strips of paper. I guess I explained that incorrectly. So he would have printed out the message so you didn't have to hear the dots and dashes, but you could listen in to the clicking. But it would print it out, and then he could figure out what letters those represented. Al decided to become a telegrapher. He sent and read messages from all over. His job took him to the South, Canada, and New England. The telegraph became more and more popular. Al wanted to find ways to make the telegraph work better. And you can see, here's some of his ideas he drew. He invented a telegraph that could send 2 messages on the same wire at the same time. And he invented a machine that printed telegraph messages in letters instead of the dots and dashes of Morse code. Al decided to make other machines better and easier to use also. He also wanted to make new machines. He became an inventor. Al made the typewriter easier to use. He also made the telephone work better. And he found a way to make motion pictures that people could watch. He invented the phonograph also. In 1879, Al tried his biggest experiment. He wanted to send electric power to a glass bulb and make it light up. But he needed to put something in the bulb that would glow for a long time. He thought and thought until he found just the right thing. Al put a special metal thread in a bulb and lit it. He looked at it the next day. It was still glowing. Al had invented the electric light. The next step for Al was to open a power station in New York. Now he could bring light to thousands of people in the city. Thomas Edison kept inventing until he died on October 18, 1931. During his life, Edison created more than 1,000 inventions. He did thousands and thousands of experiments in his lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey. He became very famous. People called him the Wizard of Menlo Park. Other inventors might have tried to make things work by using math and drawing plans. They would try to find their answers without experimenting, but not Edison. Just as he did when he was a boy, Thomas loved to find things out for himself. He would try again and again until he made things work. For one invention, Edison tried about 10,000 experiments. A friend told him not to feel bad about failing. Edison said, "Why, I've not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work." It's good that he loved to experiment. Edison made his inventions work because he never gave up. And the things he invented have brightened our lives in so many ways. There's a good lesson in that story, that biography, to never give up. And sometimes you have to try many times at something before you get it right. I hope you enjoyed learning about young Thomas Edison.